The Rococo art period may be one of the easiest art movements to identify. Many of the artworks have certain traits that can only be identified as Rococo. The best way to describe Rococo style is playful and lighthearted, not serious or stern compared to what you see in the Baroque or Neoclassical period. The aristocracy was the elite and privileged upper class. They were looking for pleasant artwork to jazz up their homes. During this time period, life was about pleasure. At least it was for the rich upper class, especially those who lived in France. Once King Louis XIV passed away, the French nobles decided to act fast on this newfound freedom. And the artwork during this time is reacting to those emotions. Some of the most noticeable characteristics seen in Rococo art are the use of pastel colors, feathery brushstrokes, along with a loose application of paint, and a preference for curved lines and asymmetry. What also makes Rococo art stand out is the use of recurring themes of decorative and erotic motifs and mythological scenes. You are not going to see many religious or historical paintings, but instead you will notice a lot of scenes of the aristocracy and nature doing enjoyable things. One of the key figures in Rococo art was Jean-Antoine Watteau. He is credited with the birth of Rococo painting. Watteau combined influences from Flemish master Peter Paul Rubens and Venetian Renaissance artists like Titian with theater. His qualities and artwork went on to inspire later Rococo artists, including Jean-Houat Fragonard and François Boucher. Watteau was known for creating dynamic compositions with a wide range of colors and the way he presented nature as idyllic and untamed. These qualities can be seen in his painting titled Diana at Her Bath, which was completed in 1716. In the painting, Diana, the goddess of the hunt and the moon, is depicted bathing herself. Diana is typically shown as a strong, bow-wielding huntress. However, Watteau presents her as a charmingly innocent young girl in the nude. On the ground beside her lies her bow and arrows, which lead us to believe she may be readying herself for a hunt. She reclines on a silky red drapery in the middle of the woods, wearing nothing but a ribbon in her hair. Watteau used this mythological aspect to explore the beauties of the female nude. The figure Diana moves with delicacy. This can be seen in the gentle point of her foot and slow turn of her body. In the 18th century, bathing scenes were often an excuse to show the nude in a variety of positions and in a range of different angles. In the painting, you'll notice, especially in the landscape, the brushstrokes are loose and plainly seen, providing a fluidity that contributes to the painting's liveliness. François Boucher was an 18th century French painter whose work was acknowledged by experts of his time and in high demand from French royalty and the nobility. He is considered the most influential Rococo-style painter and is credited with spreading the movement across Europe. Boucher was also awarded the two highest honors among the French arts, and that is, he was appointed as the first painter to the king and head of the Royal Academy. King Louis XV commissioned many of his artworks. Some of Boucher's most famous pieces depicted mythological figures, such as the Toilet of Venus, painted in 1751. This famous artwork was commissioned for Madame de Pompadour, the mistress of King Louis XV. Madame de Pompadour really admired Boucher and his artwork, and so this piece was one of many he had done for her and King Louis. In the painting, Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, is depicted. It shows Venus in the nude, readying herself after a bath. A winged baby, or Cupid, decorates her hair with flowers and pearls. Two doves are depicted, one in her arms, nestled close to her, and another below next to her feet. The cupids and the doves are attributes of Venus as the goddess of love. The flowers refer to her role as patroness of the gardens. Venus is surrounded by luxurious and decorative furnishings. She reclines on a sofa, velvet and damask, beside a gold-embellished mirror. This painting is a perfect example of Rococo style because we see the use of two specific traits. First, the use of elaborate decoration, especially gold. During this time period, the wealthy were mostly in power and wanted to be surrounded by things like art that reminded them of just that. Another trait, which preludes to Rococo-style art, is the preference for a lighter palette used in the painting. The background is primarily dark, and when it comes to the figures in these darker scenes, the artist, in this case Boucher, typically keeps the value on their skin tones and the objects around them very minimal, which causes many of these scenes to display the figures almost glowing because there are no strong shadows on them. Boucher's greatest student was Jean-Ois Fragonard. Fragonard showed such amazing skill with color and elaborate decoration that he almost surpassed his master. He has produced over 500 paintings along with hundreds of other drawings and etchings he has done. Fragonard has covered a wide range of themes, from portrait to landscape, and most famously erotic subject matter. As seen in his painting titled The Seesaw, created in 1750. Depicted in the painting is a young man and woman playing on a seesaw with two much younger children beside them. This painting was categorized as a pastoral scene, and these types of paintings were frequently excuses for erotic paintings. The painting depicts a young couple in a rustic area. Their actions at first glance seem innocent, as the young man is portrayed using the seesaw to raise the woman into the air, where she takes hold of a tree branch. However, the rhythmic motion of the seesaw could also be taken as a reference to lovemaking. The painting itself is a great example of Rococo style. First, erotic themes. Though much of Fragonard's subject matter, especially the seesaw, tended to be erotic, his touch was light enough that it helped keep his work from being too vulgar. For instance, his figures in this piece are all depicted with pale skin and rosy highlights, slender fingers and toes with messy hairdos, which displays a sense of playful innocence or just young people having fun. Fragonard's use of fluid brushwork and candy-coated color palette are two major characteristics seen from Fragonard and in Rococo art. The painting's color palette is full of pastels. Soft reds, blues, yellows, and greens dominate both the figures and the background, which is mostly woods. The Rococo period was sadly short-lived. Though educated thought was cultivated throughout the 18th century, a new kind of intellectual exchange began to develop, which became known as the Enlightenment. From this new cultural movement, the ideas about art changed, and the once popular Rococo style of elaborate decoration and eroticism became less and less relevant. Art critics sought for a nobler art, and Enlightenment philosophers criticized the Rococo style. And from there, a new art movement was formed, known as neoclassicism, which appealed to the art critics at the time.